If you're seeing this right now, you may have been in a gifted and talented program as a child in school, and how the TikTok algorithm knows this about you, I do not know. But if you have a hard time remembering what happened to you in that program, I want to show you something that might jog some memories. Does this next voice sound familiar to you?
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
What I just shared with you is not a hearing test, which is likely what they told you it was during those sessions. That clip is taken directly from a hypnosis tape by Robert Monroe called The Gateway Process, and it is designed to elicit astral projection and remote viewing sessions. This may not be for everyone, but a portion of these gifted and talented education programs were actually used as a covert government program to experiment and explore psychic phenomenon in children. When you were being administered this hearing test, do you remember seeing the sounds? Do you remember having any sort of visualization with your eyes closed when hearing those different beeps and tones? Specifically, do you remember ever seeing a red dot in the black of your eyes when you were listening to it? Do you remember being taken to a supply closet as part of the program? Maybe it was a janitor's closet, or maybe it was some sort of room in the back of a science lab. Maybe even you needed a key card to access it. This next one is more broadly about your childhood. Do you have distinct memories of being able to breathe underwater in a dream or otherwise? Do you experience the Mandela effect or weird shifts in your timeline, things that you cannot explain or justify? I know that these questions are seemingly random and weird, but this is something that I have personally dealt with, and I have also weirdly seen reflected in the comments from other people who also went through the GATE program. And I am just trying to explore all of the different commonalities that you and I might have to try and get a bigger picture of just exactly what happened and why in these gifted and talented programs. Is one of the things that sticks out in your memory of this class being forced at the beginning to take a drink of a medication in a little paper cup. Some people report it being brightly colored, pink, purple, orange, and a lot of people report it having a chalky texture. It was explained to you that this was a simple fluoride treatment that all children had to do, and you were heavily coerced into drinking it. But there are thousands of us who have little to no memories of what happened in those classes beyond the point of drinking it. So what actually was in those cups? I've narrowed it down to two interesting theories, but I want to emphasize that this is just a fun, speculative theory for entertainment purposes only. The first substance that immediately caught my attention while researching this topic is something commonly referred to as BZ. Not only was this chemical researched heavily by the US military during the same exact time that these gifted and talented programs were being formed across the country, but it was known for two very specific properties. The first is its hallucinogenic qualities, and the second is its ability to block new memories from being formed. This medication can be ground up into a fine powder and mixed with a liquid to be given orally, but due to its insolubility, it would also create a sort of chalky texture like the one that we remember while drinking this pink drink. The biggest problem that I have with BZ, and what leads me to believe that my second theory is more accurate, is that this medication can last up to 96 hours, which would not be conducive to a GATE program within the confines of school hours, and would raise suspicion in parents if their children were coming home still dazed and confused. The medication that I think was most likely being used on us is something called scopolamine, which is a medication you may have heard before because it is used in all sorts of applications throughout healthcare. It has the same exact ability as BZ to block new memory formation while also increasing suggestibility in the patient. Mixing it with a liquid would also produce the same chalky texture, and given in the right doses, you could time it so that it wears off right as the school day is ending. As far as the bright colors and distinct flavors like bubblegum that people remember, I think that these were added to it as a sort of psychological manipulation to make it more appealing to children and for us to be less likely to talk about it outside of school. Once again, these are just speculative theories. I could be totally wrong with this, but the fact that so many of us only remember this pink drink and then our memories go completely blank leads me to believe that this may have been the cause of our amnesia. Were you in a gifted and talented education program as a child and in adulthood had a weirdly easy time with law enforcement? Maybe you were in a situation where you should have gotten in trouble. You were doing something illegal, and on paper, by all means, you should have been arrested, but somehow you skated through without a problem. If that is you, you are not alone. And that is admittedly one of the less weird characteristics that a lot of people in the GATE program share, but the reason behind it fascinates me. I've seen a lot of people speculate that because we went through this program, we are all in some sort of database or on a watch list, which I'm not doubting, but the problem I have with assuming that this is the mechanism by which the cops go easy on us is if we are correct in assuming that the gifted and talented program was at least a portion part of some government experiment, it would have to be kept incredibly compartmentalized and hidden. And by having some sort of national database that every single local law enforcement can tap into would ruin the covertness of the program. So I have another theory. This is total speculation, but what if the reason that you were selected for the GATE program in the first place is because of your pattern recognition, your intuition, your ability to show empathy, and because of that, you were able to navigate these difficult situations in a much smoother way. I'm not saying we're all some sort of telepathic superhero, but I am suggesting that maybe in the face of fear, in a high pressure situation where you feel your back is up against the wall, it is a little bit easier to tap into those gifts or abilities. And that could explain why some of us have had a very easy time dealing with police in situations where we should have been screwed. If you do even a surface level of digging in almost any aspect of this program, you will find very weird things that don't make sense logically. I'm going to show you two quick examples that right away lead to very weird things and a few questions that you might have. And I'm not even going to be digging deep or using weird, obscure sources. We're going right off of Wikipedia. One of the biggest pushbacks I get on this whole topic is that it was just about intelligence. It was just about high IQs and trying to cultivate some sort of advanced education program in these kids who exhibited these things. If you start to dig into intelligence itself and the standardized testing methods, you will automatically start having questions. One of the most common IQ tests that people reported being screened with to enter into these GATE gifted and talented programs was the Stanford-Binet IQ scale. If you look into the man originally behind this IQ scale, Alfred Binet, you will find that his mentor was a man named Jean-Martin Charcot. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So what was their area of expertise that eventually led Binet to developing an intelligence scale? Well, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll find that at the time of Binet's tenure, Charcot was experimenting with hypnotism. So quick recap, one of the main intelligence tests that was used to screen children to get them into the GATE program has roots in hypnotism. The second area where just a surface level of digging will yield very interesting results is who exactly created the Association of Gifted and Talented Children in the first place. Full credit goes to another TikToker who tagged me in a video, but she turned off her comment, so I don't really know how involved she wants to be in this. The man credited with starting all of this is a doctor named John Curtis Gowan. And once again, just a quick scroll on his Wikipedia page and you will read this. Besides his work in educational psychology as specifically related to gifted children, he also had an interest in psychic or psychedelic phenomena. I'm not saying that any of this is some magical smoking gun that proves that the gifted and talented education programs were actually backed by the government, by the CIA, and some sort of psychic experimentation on children. But it certainly doesn't help me disprove that theory.